14,106. Definition of Buddha 2:4.
If we look just a little into our history, I won't go on for too long, when we entered the Joseon dynasty, the era of royal dynasties, women were not allowed to acquire knowledge. Without knowing it, they only gained small talents. And commoners were not supposed to acquire knowledge either. Later, I will teach the parents of our society so that they can thoroughly understand this, but there has never been such a time. For thousands, even tens of thousands of years, there has never been such a time. However, we must understand the principle that opened the era of the Republic of Korea. After that, all cultures, the culture used by the international community, religion is also culture, and faith is culture too. All of this came in. All the knowledge, logic, ideas, and such used by humanity came in. Regardless of gender, don't talk about commoners. There are no commoners in this country. How could heavenly children be commoners? In this way, leaving 30 million compatriots behind, everything was organized, and from then on, an era began where men, women, the elderly, and the young alike were allowed to acquire knowledge. This is the first time since the creation of the world that such a thing has happened to a nation of leaders. There was a reason for all of this. And from now on, we must untangle and organize all these things, why the turbulent times of our nation occurred, and for what purpose these events happened, causing our ancestors to make so many sacrifices over thousands and tens of thousands of years. So, when we acquired knowledge, what did we learn first? We learned that we were born on this earth with the historical mission of our nation, that we must shine the spirit of our ancestors, and that we must shine this spirit of our ancestors in the future, the spirit achieved through their sacrifices over thousands and tens of thousands of years. For example, if you are not going to acquire knowledge, how could being ignorant shine any light? You might as well just plant and eat sweet potatoes, or just farm well. Heavenly children acquiring knowledge together is something that is happening for the very first time. We currently do not realize just how grand this society is. Depending on how we use the knowledge we have acquired, the Republic of Korea will shine immensely. But what happens if we acquire knowledge and aggregate rigidly together? We become a tightly bound piece of iron. People who have acquired knowledge become stubborn and inflexible. What happens then? If light does not shine, the Republic of Korea cannot bloom. The hibiscus flower will not bloom fully. We don't even know what the hibiscus flower truly represents yet. Right now, we are the buds of the hibiscus flower. This needs to bloom. What is that? It means smiles blooming on the faces of the people of the Republic of Korea. That is the blooming of the flower. Us smiling out of joy is the hibiscus flower blooming fully. Each and every one of our heavenly children is compared to a hibiscus flower. If these people are frowning, others will say, "Why is the hibiscus flower like that?" From now on, I will unravel all of these things. Whenever the heavenly children went through tough times and moved, every time they moved through this society, what they sang was Arirang. We must understand Arirang properly as well. The word Arirang is something our nation has sung endlessly. That is why so many nations in humanity loved it so much that they tried to imitate it, calling themselves the Aryan people. There are many words similar to Arya. They tried to refer to themselves as the Aryan nation. We never let go of Arirang, and we are a nation that carried Arirang within our energy. What does this mean? It means we carried God on our shoulders, no matter how difficult it was. Through every hardship, Arirang was the sound of calling upon God. Originally, the word God, Hanyonim, did not exist. If we branch off into this direction, there are many interesting things here. We shouldn't just think of the hibiscus flower lightly. From now on, the parents of our South Korean society must understand the hibiscus flower and understand Arirang, our last 30 million ancestors, who conceived the greatest of the heavenly children, gave birth to us as their children and raised us. We are the Hongik Ingen broadly benefiting humanity leaders. We are a nation that must not remain ignorant of the world, nature, or the universe. If you do not know this world, you cannot lead it. Now, everyone has acquired knowledge precisely to lead the world. If a person who has acquired knowledge does not do the work of society, the nation, or humanity, they shouldn't have acquired knowledge in the first place. They should have stayed ignorant. Only then could they live comfortably. A knowledgeable person must live like an intellectual. South Korea today is a complete knowledge society, yet intellectuals are currently living by clinging and begging. Is this right? No. Clinging, begging, and saying, God, please give me. Give you what? Feeling a bit apologetic toward God, now it becomes, Jesus, please give me, or Buddha, please give me. Both Buddha and Jesus are disciples of God. Whatever work is done in humanity, it is all moved by God's disciples. To view God correctly, we are God's descendants and workers, which is why we are called heavenly children. They came out in the middle and acted under the name of God's children, or came out as Buddha and acted in the middle. They appeared and worked under all these names, but they are all God's disciples. Therefore, the Hanguk Ingan leaders of the Republic of Korea are 100% disciples. That is why you had to acquire knowledge, regardless of gender. The old system was completely torn down so that everyone could gain knowledge. There are no servants among the Korean people. Intellectuals are intellectuals. There are no slaves. There may be intellectuals, but there are no slaves. So why live as slaves? And why live so servilely? When you live servilely, how can heaven help you, the heavenly children? If we do not organize and clarify this now, it won't do. In the future, human society will operate in a drastically different way, so if we do not change now, it won't do. Until when? Until 2030. We are currently doing our final study. I will devote my soul to teaching you so that you can understand, but we must change. Then, how should we change? It's not about arguing whether Buddha's birthday is right or wrong. Currently, in the Republic of Korea, there is no one who is not a Buddha. There is no one who is not a Buddha, no one who is not a Avalokiteshvara Gwansayam Bosal, and no one who is not a sacred mother in this country. However, these people are wandering and sitting around, not knowing what they are supposed to do. A sacred person is a sacred mother, and a person who has acquired much is a Buddha. You have acquired what you have, but depending on how you act, that is how you become a Buddha. How you act defines Avalokiteshvara, and light begins to radiate. Now, when depicting Avalokiteshvara, people even try to create light around them, right? That refers to the light of energy emitted through actions. What is this? It means pouring out quantum energy. That light is the quantum energy coming out. The light of quantum energy coming from human beings. This was a representation of that energy that benefits people. Pouring this out was represented by making a halo. Then, eventually, they even painted gold over the halo. They should at least research what it is before painting it. It's things like this. So, fearing this might take too much time, I try to keep it brief when people ask me to explain such immense matters of the world. But, as I go on, it keeps getting longer. Now, let's untangle one thing clearly. We were told to shine the spirit of our ancestors, but let's see what it actually means to shine our ancestors' spirit. Shining the spirit of our ancestors means practicing filial piety. Shining the spirit of our ancestors is filial piety. We are a nation that has talked about being a nation of filial piety for 5,000 years, yet no one truly knows what filial piety is. They know up to a point. They know up to what should we do for our ancestors to make it filial piety. Make them joyful. They know this much. Make them joyful. How can we make them joyful? A fur coat or chocolates? But even the phrase making ancestors joyful is slightly incorrect. Let's align this properly. Joy is something experienced by those who possess a physical body. Feeling good is also something experienced by those with a physical body. Then, what happens if we are joyful? If descendants live joyfully, the living human beings, us, living as humans, if we are joyful, what happens to our ancestors? Will they be angry? They will be glad. Ancestors cannot experience joy in the physical sense. Why? They don't have a physical body. Since they have no physical body, what happens to the ancestors? They experience rejoicing, deep gladness. What is rejoicing? It's a deep, heavy state, not laughing out loud in fleeting joy, but being profoundly glad. It is the heart, the energy that parents hold when their children are doing well. Ancestors have returned to elemental energy without physical bodies. This energy feels deep gladness and gratitude. When children do well, parents don't dance around. In times of ignorance, they danced, but in this knowledge society, they are deeply glad with a subtle smile. We must make our parents glad. This is shining their spirit, and this is how we practice filial piety. If we, the heavenly children, fail to practice filial piety toward our parents, the unfulfilled grievances of our ancestors cannot be resolved. Shining the spirit of our ancestors means resolving the grievances caused by their sacrifices, making our ancestors profoundly glad, making our parents glad. That is true filial piety. We must align and untangle this principle properly. Then, if our ancestors are glad, wouldn't the Buddhas and sages be glad too? When our ancestors are glad, those figures are glad as well. Why? Because they are ancestors too. They are the ancestors of humanity. Sages are ancestors who came first, did their work, and departed. All of those ancestors rejoice. When we were told to shine the spirit of our ancestors, we thought it only meant making our father, mother, and grandfather glad. That's not it. The spirit of ancestors refers to the ancestors of all humanity. To make the ancestors of humanity glad, how could bringing material goods achieve that? Are you going to keep placing apples on the grave, and when that's not enough, offer a whole shark on the grave? Even if you brought the entire country to the grave, they couldn't rejoice from that. But when our descendants live joyfully, they rejoice. This is the heart of parents, of ancestors, and of the gods. Then, if parents are glad and our sages are glad, how would God feel? God would be glad too. It's the same. God is our parent. When descendants live joyfully, God is glad. But here, one more thing remains. We must be happy. Is God happy? God cannot be happy in the human sense. God is deeply glad. Happiness is something humans experience. We, who live with physical bodies, are the ones who experience happiness. When we practice filial piety, and as a result, our parents, sages, and God rejoice, we become happy. Today's society is no longer a time to merely revere God. It is no longer a time to merely revere the sages. It is not a time to just revere or serve Buddha or Jesus. Even if you leave them alone, they are doing fine. Serving them doesn't make you extraordinary. We must live lives where we make God, our ancestors, and the sages deeply glad through our joyful living. Instead of living our own lives, if we go around begging, "Please help me buy an apartment," those beings will go crazy out of frustration. Well, they are already deceased, so they can't die again, but God would go crazy. Those sacred beings would go from frowning to losing their minds. We must live joyfully. Only then will they be so glad that this energy will pour back down upon us again. Then, for us to live joyfully, that is the answer. But how should we live to be joyful? This is the question. The era of living solely for oneself has passed. That was during the time of acquiring knowledge and talents. Now that you have acquired it, if you have acquired this much, you should know how to do work worth that much. Now is the time for your true capability to show. What kind of capability should the heavenly children and Hongjik Ingan leaders of South Korea demonstrate? Everyone grew up with their own talents, and weren't we told to achieve self-reliance from within? It means to organize and master it. Since everyone developed their talents, built their analytical abilities, refined their sensitive temperaments, and cultivated their skills, South Korea is the nation built to raise these people who were born with their respective talents. How would a manual laborer feel? Those directly performing labor are the ones who must analyze, research, and grow while working. That is why labor was assigned. Labor wasn't assigned just for you to make a living. It was assigned so that you could automatically resolve this, that, and the other through research. Then, you should have researched the things automatically given within that context. Pain was given so that you could experience and understand why pain comes. Why do people meet death? Why do difficult things inevitably happen? All of these things occurred so that you could research them on site. South Korea is the ultimate human research institute established by the Hongik Ingan leaders and heavenly children. On top of that, all kinds of cultures were brought in so that you could also research what God or the divine is. We served ancestors, served God, served Buddha, served many Buddhas, and served Jesus. We did it all. What was that for? All of that was arrayed there for you to study, because it is important. If we skip it, we will keep losing the opportunity to study. So even if it takes a little time, this is something we must study today without fail.